We're going to take a minute and talk about some horror stories you run across in real estate. All types of things happen, and learning how to navigate them is so important in business. So if you find this video helpful, take a minute and like the video. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make any comments below, and we'll do our very best to answer those questions for you too along the way. So, oh my gosh, guys, I got to think here for a minute about some horror stories we've run into over the years of all different types and natures. I remember one of my partner's very first deals we bought was a hoarder house, and she had won the deal, and the property was in active pre-foreclosure, and the seller had provided us information with the tax lender who was foreclosing on the property. So we went in, paid off that lender, and went to close the property, only to find out the property had been foreclosed upon. And you're going, wait, time out. We paid off the lender, they couldn't foreclose. Nope. The seller failed to tell us she had two parallel foreclosures going simultaneously by property tax companies, foreclosing at the same time simultaneously. Never seen it before. First time. And I just go, oh my goodness, now we got to go buy this thing back. And here in Texas, you've got to pay 125% of whatever the purchase price was of the property. And this was a $300,000 home, 8-9 years ago. And the value at that time, because of the list of repairs that it needed, et cetera, may have been $125,000 to $150,000. And I'm just going, it's going to cost this poor lady $25,000, $30,000, $40,000 to get the house back. Well, found out who bought the property, and it just happened to be another lawyer not far from Dallas in Sherman, Texas, who was also an Aggie. So I was an Aggie, so I was able to draw some goodwill at that point in time and reached out to him. And lo and behold, this guy only bought the property for $22,000 because he bought it at lunchtime and was the only person at the auction at that time. So it did wind up costing the client about $5,000 to repurchase the home. She got it back, and although she didn't make as much money as she wanted, she made pretty much of it. But what you learn from that is make sure you've done your homework, double check everything. Just because you see one tax lien being foreclosed on and you see another one out there at the same time, you think in your mind it's the same thing, and it may not be. So learning how to navigate that, how to research it, comes up. Got really lucky. Turned that deal into a home run transaction at the end of the day. Another transaction we ran across that you hear these horror stories on is buying a home where there were 3 heirs, and one of the heirs lived in the property. We heard the rumors that this one heir may be a hoarder. We don't know. We hadn't seen the house. And we couldn't ever get into the home to really investigate it. But it was a great deal based on loan to value. Even estimating repairs high, it was still a good deal. After buying the home, of course, we were going to rely upon this one occupant to vacate based upon the contract. But what you learn from this is if somebody is a hoarder, there probably is a screw loose, and they're not going to do the right thing. It just doesn't seem like they're going to follow suit and clean the house out and vacate and move on. Doesn't mean it won't happen, but there's something going on there. And so I had our partner go by, try to get access to the home, could never do it. And eventually I said, we just need to file an eviction and get this moving forward because I don't think they're going to move out. And the horror story is we got our eviction, and it's now we need to be proactive in gaining access to the home. We want to get keys, we want to change locks. And we may not be able to get her out of the house just yet because they could still appeal or do things of this nature, but we can get keys and we can gain access to our home since we own it. Well, when he pulls up the house to post notice on the front door, he finds 3 police cars out front, and of course, he's calling me up going, what do I do? And of course, my simple answer was, go talk to him. So he goes up and talks to him, only to find out that the occupant had passed away 2 weeks ago. What that means to me is that we evicted a dead person, and they passed away in the garage in their car of natural causes. But this was in San Antonio, Texas, guys, and it was in July. So think of what happens to a body in 105-degree heat at that time. Let the mind go wild. I think that's what it is. Thank goodness I wasn't there to have to go through and navigate this stuff. Had never known how to deal with those issues before or how to handle the cleanup or what was required. And we started making phone calls, and the cost of a hazmat cleanup is huge. And somehow we were so fortunate to find someone who had towed the car off as an abandoned vehicle. Carpeting was on the floor, able to roll it up, take it to the dump without having to go through those issues, and we're done. But the things that go through your mind initially blow you away. Now, of course, we got into the house, and sure enough, she was a hoarder. And it wasn't hoarding with material items, it was with trash. Trash from the kitchen, wherever it might be. It was literally knee-deep, upstairs, downstairs, everywhere. How you get that much in a large home, I don't know, but it was. It was if they never left the house. I don't know the situation, but it was bad. Rats the size of cats. But it teaches you, again, to be diligent. Just don't trust someone to do the right thing. That word trust but verify comes to mind. But always take the right steps to protect yourself and protect your interest and realize situations that are ongoing. You know, another one that's kind of fun to talk about happened several years ago down in the Houston area, where our client had leased a home to a lady, and he was using this really good-looking lease package he had gotten through one of these training seminars. And they had executed the contracts and whatnot, but he didn't collect all the money up front. He had gotten 1 month's rent, but he wanted 2 months of security deposit because there were some credit issues and things of that nature. He wanted more security to protect himself. So they execute the lease. He gives a copy of the lease to the borrower, and she's supposed to come in, make payments in the next couple of days for the security deposit. The problem is she didn't come in. So he's driving by the house over the weekend, and lo and behold, she has broken in the home and moved in the house. Furniture, everything, kids. He calls the police out because thinking she's a squatter, and she comes running out showing a signed lease, and the cops go, sorry man, can't do anything about it, you've got a signed document. So now we have to go through the eviction process. Well, she had made her rent that first month, so we couldn't do anything. And along the way, this lady files a lawsuit against our client for not giving him a key to the property, even though she broke in the house. That lawsuit went from justice court to county court to the Court of Appeals in Texas. Just think of the legal cost and expense of that. And this tenant was some type, or claimed to be some type of a paralegal who did all the paperwork herself. She's what we call a vexatious tenant or litigator who is just filing this false litigation. Well, along the way, very quickly, she missed paying her rent by 1 day, and we were able to get our notice to vacate out and get into the justice court for an eviction. So we go to the justice court, we get an eviction, and then they file an appeal, and they file an appeal using what is called a pauper's affidavit, or an inability to file a bond for the appeal. Well, we go to the court to protest the bond because we know there's assets there, and we were able to prove that. But this small county JP that we were located in wanted nothing to do with it and agreed to the affidavit and let it go up to the county court on appeal. And again, this tenant was a fairly sizable lady who on certain occasions could be a little bit spooky, to be honest with you. And so we wind up going to the county court. And at the county court level, this time her husband comes in, and he's about 120 pounds, and I won't even tell you what she was. And they are screaming at the judge at the top of their lungs. I've never had bailiffs come in and stand behind defendants before in the 6,000 or so evictions I have done. And it was a spooky environment, and of course we did win the eviction process. And the court wouldn't even let us leave the courtroom until they had not only cleared the building, but cleared the parking lot. It was there were issues ongoing, and there, of course, the lesson is know what's going on, be wise, be smart, and evicting somebody doesn't always bode well for the landlord. Well, before we could wind up getting a writ of possession out there, a bankruptcy gets filed. Another $5 million defamation lawsuit is filed. We wind up going to bankruptcy court for 6 hours plus, They wind up throwing her out of bankruptcy completely for every type of fraud you can imagine. Wind up going to do a set out only to find out the house, just in the 90 days she was there, is totally trashed. They find evidence and proof of all types of welfare fraud, taking Social Security checks from these 4 Asian ladies that were, for lack of a better word, being held as slaves at the home. It was bizarre, guys. And after all this was done, we think it's over. We've been in court probably 13, 14 times because all these cases kept getting appealed to the Court of Appeals in Texas. And where all this really started was the execution of a lease without getting all the money up front. Now, in this case, getting the money up front really wouldn't have helped anything, but having 2 additional months of security deposit would have helped mitigate some of the damages caused to the property at least. So here's the fun part of all this, guys. After all this had happened, the writ of possession had been filed, etc., we think things are done. My client gets a knock at the door and in walks the FBI. And guys, I don't know if you've ever been in front of the FBI before, but it's spooky even when you're on the good side of them, because these guys are good at what they do. But they won't tell our client what's going on. But they're investigating this lady that had been evicted. The next day, Homeland Security comes in. I'm sorry, FBI is enough to scare the wits out of me. I can't even imagine the Homeland Security coming in, asking the same questions and following up. And 2 days later, the Secret Service comes in, guys. And we're going nuts. It's like, what in the world is going on? And they aren't disclosing anything, but we just know it's about this person. We also find out they're investigating the lawyers. I'm one of the lawyers, and there was another lawyer who's handling the upper appeal issues in bankruptcy matters. We were being investigated behind the scenes, and we don't know why. Well, lo and behold, about 6 months later, we find out that they're investigating her because they had discovered bomb-making materials sent to the governor of Texas and to the president of the United States, and they found a thumbprint on a piece of tape that happened to match this lady's thumbprint. So what that means real simply is that she had been in jail before. Of course, we didn't know that. We didn't know what risk we were running going through all these eviction courts. You don't ever expect anything to happen, but they could have been carrying a weapon at any point in time along the way. And finally, this is the CSI part of the story. The FBI got a warrant to DNA test all the cats that were found at this lady's house because they found a single cat hair in the newspaper wrappings in one of these containers that had been sent. And they were able to positively identify one of the cats to that hair, and that one hair with the thumbprint was enough to convict her and put her in jail for 10 years without parole. And again, all this came from a lease that should have never been signed in the first place until you got paid, because had she simply broken in the house, she would have been a squatter. And the police would have removed her for trespassing at that point in time, and our client could have averted the entire situation. So again, be smart, use good paperwork, and know what it is you need to do and how you need to do it. And take the time to properly investigate your tenants in that business. And lastly, I'm just going to talk a little bit about a repair issue, because so often we investors, when we are buying properties, we don't get a chance to spend a lot of time in our house. We can't send in professional inspectors of the house. We don't have time to crawl on the roof, crawl in the attic, crawl underneath the house, and check everything out. Yeah, there's things we can look at to mitigate our risk substantially. But I did buy one home years ago here in the southeast part of Dallas, and we knew the house had various issues. One of the bathroom floors had collapsed from wood rot. So we anticipated it was just a water leak in the bathroom area. There was going to be floor joist issues and subfloor issues that had to be dealt with. And we built all that into our construction numbers. The only issue is once we bought the house, we found out that all the floor joists and seal plates underneath this home were bad from wood rot and termite damage and had to be replaced. At that time, this home was we had bought the home for $40,000 total. That was purchase price and repairs, and the value may have been $80,000. So you can tell this was quite some time ago. The cost just to replace the seal plates and the floor joists was in excess of $10,000, 25% of our purchase price. That is a repair you never expect and anticipate. We were able to get out of that deal over time, but it took holding that home for 10 years to recoup our losses. And eventually we made a profit on the property, but it took 10 years just to become profitable. So again, the lesson there is do your best to do your due diligence, investigate issues. When you see that there are major signs of damages, take the time, send somebody to do a little bit further investigating. It might save you some time and trouble along the way, and probably a lot of money also. So guys, I hope you found this video at least fun to listen to a little bit about what can happen in real life. Think through your deals a little bit. If you did like the video, take the time to like it. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make any comments below. We'll do the best we can to get back to those comments for you too. We'll see you all next time.